Hello and welcome to the Tipsy Theory podcast. My name is Adrian.
And I'm Allysha.
And today we are going to be talking about some ghost stories, a little bit of a variation on the more you know. We're going to be talking about some hauntings around Toronto, some locally sourced content, and that'll be all well and good. But before we go into that, let's talk a little bit about our drink of the day.
It's a watermelon.
Watermelon.
So spooky. So this spooky summer drink is a cubed up watermelon thrown into a blender, blended with as much rum as you desire, and then poured back into the carcass of the watermelon.
We decided on 5 seconds was
5 seconds amount of pour.
5 seconds of pouring.
Yeah.
Which may or may not vary on the type of opening that your rum bottle has, but for ours it was plentiful.
But yeah, it's a really good summer drink, and you can find that recipe, as easy as it is, at tipsytheory.com/drinks, and then you can drink along with us.
We highly recommend that, especially now that the summer weather has officially arrived. Our sponsor today is Groundhog.io. Again, that's Groundhog with 2 G's, marketing automation for WordPress. If you're looking to start a business, you already have a business, or you're looking to grow your business, then you need marketing and sales tools in order to be able to do that. Groundhog provides all this digital marketing and sales tools that you need that can install right into your WordPress website. More about that at the end of the show.
Is it haunted?
It is not. It is digital.
Shame.
Although I suppose as there is no software free of bugs, I suppose you could classify that as little ghosts haunting your business.
Oh my god. That's fair.
All right, so why don't you take us into our first ghost story?
Okay, well, for our first ghost story, I decided to do a theater because that's the most stereotypical haunted ghost story out there.
Absolutely. Yes.
So if you live in this area, you're probably very familiar with the Elgin Theater, which is located on Yonge and Dundas.
We've been there.
We have. We went to go see Chicago, as well as a variety of other shows I've been there for. I know Grease Live also played there recently. But this theater is a bit older, which is hence the ghosts. It actually opened in 1913, and it was originally named Lowe's Yonge Street Theater, which is, very creative considering the name of the person who opened it was Marcus Lowe, and he opened it on Yonge Street. So the original theater was open until 1987, when it underwent a bunch of renovations to the theater that we pretty much know now. And it was during this renovation in 1987 where they found a closed-off dome section of the theater, and they weren't aware when it got closed off, but it contained a bunch of playbills and costumes and stuff. And apparently when they opened it, and since after then, the theater has now been haunted.
By who?
So they don't know exactly who is haunting the theater because there's a variety of different cases, which I'll go through right after this. But some volunteers during the renovation decided to conduct a session with an Ouija board because haunted appearances started to showcase and they wanted to know why. So when they did this test, I guess you can call it, a ghost named Samuel was somebody who identified himself.
Did you just call a Ouija board a test?
A test? I said a test if you can call it a test. Some people would
More
say
like a shot in the dark.
But apparently a ghost named Samuel came forward and they asked him about his life, and he said that he was actually a trombone player in the 1918 and he died falling into the orchestra pit.
Well, that's one way to go. I mean, it's not one of the worst kinds of people to have haunt in your theater. You just got music on call.
It really isn't, because if you think about ghost stories, you think about murderers, serial killers, but having this trombone player named Samuel haunt you isn't the worst case scenario, I guess. Seems like a pretty friendly haunt.
What do you call a dead musician?
What?
A decomposer.
Oh my god, that's so bad. So do you want to hear how they haunt the theater?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with music.
Yeah.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
That's okay.
So there's a few different ways that they say that this theater is haunted. The first one is that a bunch of workmen in the theater after hours say that they see groups of the theater seats fold down as if an unseen audience was sitting down to watch a show.
Or the springs could just be failing because that theater is literally a bajillion years old.
Don't debunk the theories. We're not here for that.
That's the whole point of the show.
I think this is the point where I mentioned that I'm a very strong ghost believer and Adrian is not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a huge fan of the eternal, abysmal purgatory of the afterlife bound to a certain place on this planet Earth.
Then how do you describe me seeing a ghost?
Which we'll talk about later, but moving forward.
Okay, so another way that it's haunted is they have a hand cranked elevator in the theater that they don't really use much anymore. They just kind of left it there to preserve the historic value. But workers report that after hours, the elevator will move up and down, even though there's nobody there to hand crank it.
Spooky. The bus boy is playing pranks on the stuff.
And then the last one is both residents, or I keep calling them residents, guests of the theater,
patrons,
as well as workers, both have admitted that they've seen a woman in like a 1908 attire ascend down the lobby stairs.
Ascend down the lobby stairs.
Descend or ascend. Both. Ascend up, descend down. She can descend up. She's a ghost.
I guess they're not exactly bound by the laws of physics. Are ghosts bound by the laws of physics?
I'm going to say no.
You're going to go with no on that one?
Considering like ghosts are like often on fire or floating.
True.
I feel like physics don't apply to them.
True. Well, next time you're at the Elgin Theater, make sure to look for that dumbwaiter and take note of its last position. And then the next time you're there, probably a year later, it might have moved. Spooky.
Okay, well, is yours any better?
Probably not, but I'm going to read it anyway. So I am sourcing my ghost story from the University of Toronto magazine as well as the University of Toronto archives.
I'm going to stop you there because I'm also going to say that I'm sourcing all of mine from Ghost and Hauntings Research Society.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do our due diligence and go directly to the source. So University College, one of the, I think, like 9 colleges.
Yeah, it's also one of the very first colleges.
Yeah, so it was actually built in 1853 was when it was completed construction.
That's old.
Very old. Coming up, well, actually, it's 50 years. Well, that, or no, it's
no, you're
bicentennial. That's what I'm talking about. Bicentennial would have been in 2013.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah. So almost or over 150 years old. So legend has it that 2 of the stonemasons, because if you've ever been to University College, it's all stone.
Yes. A lot of the buildings in Toronto are all stone.
A lot of the older ones anyway. Yeah. So legend has it that 2 of the stonemasons that worked on the construction of University College, Ivan Resnikoff and Paul Diablos, got into a murderous fight over a woman. Isn't it always? Which ended up in Diablos stabbing Resnikoff and then hiding his body somewhere on site. This, of course, is not corroborated by any sort of university or police reports or missing persons papers from that era. However, 2 years later, much of University College burned down in a fire.
Was it only the 2 years later?
It was only the 2 years later.
So how does the college burn down if it's made out of stone?
That is
a very good question.
That's poking holes in my story.
It's probably the interior was made out of wood. A lot of them have a lot of wooden interior.
Yes. Well, if you look at like
all the stairs, everything.
The cathedral in France, then that thing's all stone, but
there's
boy, did it light up.
A lot of wood interior, yes.
So, in a great fire, University College burned mostly, and workers digging through the rubble discovered something strange inside a ventilation shaft. A skeleton wearing a belt with the buckle stamped with the stonemason's emblem. It is said that the ghost of Resnikoff still roams the UC Quad to this day. Ooh.
Very spooky. I actually have a few people who I know who resided in University College during university. And one of them said that they saw the orb.
The orb
of the ghost floating around the quad.
So is that how Resnikoff chooses to float around?
Yeah.
As an orb?
A white light, she said.
A white light.
Mysterious, spooky.
Ooh. Or she could just be having test PTSD.
Or, playing into the hype of a haunted quad.
This is true. If you ever do get the chance, however, to go chill with Resnikoff in the UC Quad, it is beautiful on a nice summer day.
It is a really nice quad, which I don't know, is he just there because he got murdered, or is he there because it's better than wherever he has to go?
I don't know. I don't know what it is with ghosts deciding to chill out, like where they died.
Well, the main theory behind ghosts staying is they can't move into the afterlife because they're unsettled. There's like unfinished business.
They've got unresolutions.
So he's probably there because somebody killed him and that person walked free.
Well, I guess Diablos is chilling somewhere nice these days. All right, take us on to our next one.
All right. Well, what's really exciting about the next one, if I've actually been to this location on a ghost tour.
Ooh.
Well, not on a ghost tour, as a historic tour that I turned into my own personal ghost tour.
Ooh.
So, if you're unaware, there's something called the Mackenzie House in our city. It's on Bond Street, so it's right behind Dundas, near the mall. And William Lyon Mackenzie resided there for his last few years of his life. And he was the first mayor of Toronto in 1837. And he was one of the most famous mayors. I feel like that's safe to say. Most people recognize his name.
Probably.
Yeah, he led a rebellion to overthrow the British rule during the time when, like, you know, Canada was trying to separate.
Not a gun-laden rebellion. More of a very polite political rebellion.
So he also he had a print shop as well. He was a printer.
It was a rebellion of words.
So he used his newspapers and his pamphlets to rebel against the British.
We should secede and be our own country.
Yes, it was a very literal, polite Canadian rebellion.
Yes.
But
nothing like the Boston Tea Party.
No. So when he became the mayor, he still held his print shop, but it was like not in his house at that point because he moved into a new house, which was the one on Bond Street that is apparently haunted. So while he was mayor, he lived there, or after he was mayor, and he died in 1861. So he lived in the house for 3 years before he passed. And he died in his house in his bed. 12 years later, his wife, Isabel, also died in the same room. Which, you know,
Spooky.
very, very common for haunts. So this house is still open today for tours. You can go there. It's super cheap. And they kind of take you on the tour, and they relocate some of its print equipment into the house that he had in his print shop. So you can see, like, kind of, they split the house into half print shop, half of his actual house. So some of his house is still kind of how it was when he was there. And his bed is still there, like the exact bed that he died in. It's still in the house. And people who go on tours and workers both state that they see his ghost.
The only thing that house is haunted by is mites.
So, but listen, a lot of the workers, when I was there, I talked to one of the workers who worked there. He was my age. So I kind of like chilled out after the tour was over. And I was like, can I ask you a few questions about the house? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, so is it haunted? And he rolled his eyes and laughed a little. He's like, I get this question a lot. And I was like, okay, no, but what's your honest opinion? He's like, I personally haven't seen anything. But my one coworker, you should come back when she works because she's petrified to go into the basement now because she felt like she was being strangled.
Boo.
And a lot of people say that when they're there, they can feel like him touching their shoulders, or they feel a cold breeze, or the door slammed. So they think that his body still haunts the house today.
Well, out of all of the ones that I think we're going to read today, that one's probably the most likely. If there were to be any supernatural activities, then...
Why do you say that?
It would be that one. Pardon?
Why do you say that?
Because we can actually verify that somebody died there.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, they did die in that house. And, you know, like, you can say that he kind of had unfinished business. He didn't really succeed everything he wanted to succeed. You know? Like, he was mayor. He tried to lead a rebellion. But I feel like there was more he wanted to do.
Possibly. Well, this the one that I'm about to read is about someone who did accomplish what they wanted to do. So this is, again, going back to the University of Toronto. The Wahlberg building is on College Street, near College and Bay. I actually had a computer science course in the Wahlberg building.
I'm trying to think of this building, but I can't.
I don't. You've never been there.
Yeah.
It's down the very, very, very south side.
Is it old?
It's an older building, although I wouldn't predate it like 1940s or anything. As a first-year engineering student, Leo Cometale, a bachelor's of engineering student in 1997, was working with a partner on an electronics assignment in an old lab in the Wahlberg building. They weren't doing very well, and they were kind of struggling until someone spoke up behind them and said, well, what's wrong? And they didn't notice he was actually there, and they've never seen him before. But they said, "Well, we're having a lot of trouble with this circuit. You know, we built it exactly the way that it's specified here on the piece of paper, but it's not behaving as it's intended." And so the man responds, "Well, have you double checked all the wires?" And they're like, "Well, we did, but I guess we'll do it again." So they both turned around, looked down the circuit, started double checking the wires, and sure enough, there was a wire that was off. They fixed it, and they turned around to thank the man, and he was gone. Woo-hoo.
So they were so focused and fixing their circuit board that the guy walked away, and they didn't realize that he walked away.
But they never saw him again. And no one matched his description in the faculty.
I'm sorry, but that one's not.
Well, let's just listen here. I'm doing my best.
No, I get it, but like nobody else saw him again. Like no other students reported other incidents.
Nope. No, and no one could match his description of what he looked like.
And when was this?
1997.
1997. Interesting.
There's actually anecdotal quotes from the guy.
Really?
He says, "No one else could remember seeing anyone who matched his description. Neither of us saw this man again during our time at the university."
Weird.
Weird indeed.
A very helpful ghost.
Very, that's, if all ghosts like showed up and be like, "Hey, you should probably not do that."
Yeah, you wouldn't really call that a haunting, would you?
I did that. Look what happened to me.
That's just
Don't do it.
Some ghost dude who was like, "Listen, I'm stuck here on Earth because, somebody murdered me or something. But I may as well help these poor university kids out because they look like they need it."
They honestly do. All right, let's wrap this up with your personal ghost story.
My personal ghost
Your
story.
personal ghost story. Because I don't believe in ghosts, but
I do.
She does, and she has a reason.
So
Do tell.
this isn't based in Toronto, though. This is based in my hometown, Guelph, which isn't
Not too far.
not too far from Toronto.
Which has many, many more ghost stories that are verified
does.
than here in
We
Toronto.
should actually
by the
do our
way.
own separate podcast. There's a haunted brewery that's down there, which is pretty cool.
Hotel brewery.
They had this is way off topic, but they had like Sleeman tunnels running through underground.
Save it. Save it for the next content.
But
We're
they're
going to save
haunted.
it. Stay tuned.
Anyway,
Come next time.
So anyways, I was in Guelph and I was with my cousins actually. And there's a huge cemetery, really bad placement. It's kind of just like stuck in the middle of downtown. And we decided to cross through it just before it closed. So it was like dusk. And because we were younger, we were like, fooling around a little bit, taking our time, walking through because it was spooky, scary, dark, right? To cut through it.
Cemeteries are spooky.
Right? Okay. So we're walking through the cemetery and my one cousin starts freaking out. She's like, "I keep seeing this thing, like there's somebody in here with us." And me and my other cousin were like, "You're crazy. Like there's nobody in here. It's just us. Like you're freaking out." And she kept being like, "No, like he was over there and now there's somebody over there and there's movement." And of course we didn't believe her until all of us saw clearly a man just calmly riding his bike. So all of us freak out and we run to the exit and we stand there and we wait and we wait and we wait and nobody came out.
There are multiple entrances to the cemetery, right?
No, because we went into the one entrance as the guy was closing it and we exited the other one and nobody came out of it.
Whoa.
So to this day, I swear it was a ghost.
Spooky.
Believe me or not, I was younger, but to this day...
Did this man look homeless?
No.
Did he live in the cemetery?
No.
Was he a zombie?
I don't know.
Possibly.
But it was creepy because my cousin swears she saw him like over here and then like a minute later he was over here and then a minute later he was like right in front of us. And it's not even like we heard him coming, like all of a sudden he was just there in front of us. Like we didn't see him running down the road. We didn't hear him. He was just there and it was silent and we all just kind of stood there as we watched him like silently like ride and then we all just freaked out and just booked it out of the cemetery.
So at that time, did you like think it was a ghost?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And both of my cousins, may I add, one of them is a very non-ghost person, very logic, and even he was like...
Yeah, it was pretty freaky.
Yeah, so...
All right. Well, and I suppose we'll never know on this episode of The More You Know.
I guess not.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before we end the episode, I just want to thank our sponsor, Groundhog.io. Again, that's Groundhog with 2 Gs. Marketing automation for WordPress. If you're looking to start a business, you already have a business, or you're looking to grow your business, and you want to use some awesome sales and marketing tools to be able to do that, then Groundhog has a perfect set of suite of tools for you to be able to use and install on any pre-existing WordPress website. All you have to do is you have to go to Groundhog, again with 2gs.io, and click register and receive your free download for an entire suite of email marketing tools, reporting, automation tools, and so much other cool stuff that you can use in order to kick your business up a notch. Again, that is groundhog.io, and we're going to thank them for sponsoring this podcast. And with that, it is a shame to have to end another episode, but we will catch you next time.
Subscribe and cue the outro music.